but for perspective, I'm also joined now from Nepal. Major General Binod Basniat is a strategic affairs expert, a former a veteran of the Nepal army. He joins us on the show. Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan is former member of the National Security Advisory Board, was a defense attaché in China, joins us on the broadcast. Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar with me on this. But General Basniat, what's the current situation in your view, sir? Is the army in a position to contain the widespread reports of violence and arson that we hear in Nepal?
Gaurav, thank you so much for inviting me. Firstly, let me tell you that the current peaceful protest by the Gen Z is the largest protest in Nepal's political agitation history, whether it is the Kotpara of 1846 or different agitations. So with this comes the present ground reality. So the present ground reality has three folds. One is the law and order forces credibility is diminishing. Second, the political parties have stopped functioning temporarily, particularly the Nepali Congress, the UML, and the Maoist. So this is questioning the constitutional arrangements. And the third is the protest is getting wider. It's not just the Gen Z's population, but it is gone into the homes, and it is not due to, and it is basically due to the handling by force of the government. So right now there is a constitutional vacuum. When the prime minister has resigned, there is no government. The house has not yet been dissolved, and the president also seems to be in a bad shape in the sense that he is I mean, some say he's in the mood of resigning, some say he has to be accountable, because the only two bodies that will be left to handle this interim arrangements will be the president's office and the Nepalese army. And I think the Nepalese army's popularity and the trust amongst the people will give direction for immediate and short-term stability. And I'm not aware exactly what the chief of the army speech of the army chief General Sigdel spoke in the media with the people, but I think these are all professionals who can handle things well to address two issues. One is the political issue, that is the amendments in the constitution. The other is the governance issue, is on the charges of the commission, a commission to be formed for corruption charges. So if these two things are handled, I think the interim arrangements with the president's directions and Nepal Army's role in meeting the security arrangements will let the peace protesters subside.
Go back to their homes. Sir, stay with me for a moment. I have Abdul Khan, who's a former minister in the government of Nepal, joining me on this broadcast. Abdul Khan साहब, इस समय जो स्थिति है नेपाल में, क्या कोई गवर्नेंस, क्या कोई सरकार है? आर्मी कंट्रोल करेगी, प्रेसिडेंट कंट्रोल करेंगे, या ये हिंसा चलती ही रहेगी? शांति कैसे लौटेगी?
देखिए, अभी जो नेपाल का अवस्था है, तो यहाँ पे जितने भी सरकारी ऑफिस सब थे, कार्यालय सब थे, वो लगभग सभी मलबे में तब्दील हो गए हैं, सभी में आगजनी हुआ है, तोड़-फोड़ हुआ है, युवा सब आक्रोशित है। और इस समय में खास करके यहाँ पे जो युवा सब की पार्टी मानी जाती है और जिसको युवा सब चाहता है, जैसे बालेन शाह हो गए, काठमांडू के मेयर हैं वो, रवि लामिछाने हो गए, राष्ट्रीय स्वतंत्र पार्टी के वो सभापति हैं, डॉक्टर सीके राउत हो गए जो अभी मेरी पार्टी के प्रेसिडेंट हैं। इन लोग का अभी मीटिंग चल रहा है और ये मीटिंग से अभी लगभग 2-3 घंटा के बाद कोई न कोई यहाँ पे निर्णय लिया जाएगा, कोई डिसीजन लिया जाएगा कि जो है अब हम सब आगे किस कदम वो बढ़ाते हुए जाएँ ताकि ये जितनी समस्याएं हैं ये रुकें। और अभी तक का युवा सबका जो आक्रोश है, इसके लिए शांति की अपील की गई है। ये लोगों द्वारा, हम सभी द्वारा शांति की अपील की गई है। और आज जो है यहाँ के प्रधानमंत्री से लेकर के मंत्री लोग और राष्ट्रपति जी भी इस्तीफ़ा दे चुके हैं। इस समय
जी।
में आज अभी नेपाल की जो सेना प्रमुख है, उनका संबोधन भी होगा। तो कल से ख़ास करके सेना के हाथ में देश होगा, लेकिन अब आगे का सिचुएशन कैसा हो, किस तरीके का हो, ये युवा सबको
जनरल
मिला करके
सिगदेल
एक
विल
जो
बी
है
स्पीकिंग शॉर्टली। जी खान साहब रहिए मेरे साथ। जनरल नरसिम्हन एंड एम्बेसडर सज्जनहार, जनरल नरसिम्हन टू यू फर्स्ट. General Sigdel, the Nepal Army chief, will be addressing the nation shortly in Nepal. You think the army will be able to contain the situation, and the manner in which systematically political leaders, former prime ministers, current ministers, former ministers, they've been targeted? Is this random or planned targeting of the existing political leadership in Nepal, sir?
Thank you very much, Gaurav. Unlike the protest that we saw in Bangladesh, here it seems to be instantaneous. What happened here in Nepal, and so there is no leadership, there is no organizational structure in this protest. So therefore, I think the protests have come instantaneously on their own. That is one thing I could get to see. The second problem that you will find is army is still contemplating on getting into the sea. Though of course, army chief is said to have asked the prime ministers to resign before army can take control of the situation. This army will definitely be able to control. That is the first point I want to convey, and I see my friend General Binod Basneyat there. Army will definitely be able to control. It's a professional army, very well trained army, and so I don't think there will be a problem there. The only problem is there is no constitutional structure at this point in time. There is no president, there is no prime minister, there's no governance actually at this point in time. That has to be brought back to some kind of a shape. And there is a name of Mr. Barinder Shah is coming up for, that people are wanting to be the interim prime minister. All those things will take shape. First, I think they need to get the situation under control. I think once the army moves in, I think that will happen. Maybe within a day or two, you will find a semblance of peace coming back.
Okay. Ambassador Sajjanhar, is there also your appreciation that it's a spontaneous uprising against massive corruption in the KP Sharma Oli government? But, it's the same leadership, whether it's the Communist Party or the Nepali Congress Party or others. It's a revolving door policy. Different parties, same faces. They're just playing a game. They just keep coming into power each time. This time people said there has to be someone new. Your appreciation also of Balendra Shah or Balen Shah, the rapper turned political leader of the mayor of Kathmandu, who's likely to be the interim prime minister if the street is to be believed.
No, absolutely. You're very right, Gaurav. I think a couple of things. I also feel that it is an organic protest, and that is why, it has come up so suddenly. That trigger or proverbially the last straw on the camel's back was this social media app ban, etc., etc. But the real issue was corruption, was malgovernance, was inflation, was unemployment, etc., and everything that goes with it. The second point is that all political parties, those who have been in government, they have lost credibility, completely lost credibility. And that is why you would have seen that it is not only KP Sharma Oli. He's been prime minister 5 times. Sher Bahadur Deba 5 times. Prachand 4 times. Madhav Nepal also equal number of times. So, what people feel is, as you put it, a revolving door or it's a musical chair. Someone is coming, someone is going, someone is getting out, someone is coming in. And as far as the opposition is concerned, on some trumped up charges or the other, they are put behind bars or they are thrown out of favor. So for all practical purposes, there is no opposition as far as the country is concerned. The second point I want to make is that all institutions in the country appear to have been totally discredited because they are moving against the presidency, they are moving against the Supreme Court, they are moving against even the police, the law enforcement agencies. So democracy which came to the country 17 years ago has really not been able to develop roots, has not been able to strengthen institutions, that is not all that surprising. The
Okay.
last point I want to make is the first need of the hour is to get peace, security, and stability. That is
Yes.
not getting. The only institution that seems to be in a place competent, capable, and have the trust and credibility of the people is the army. And they have the instruments of power and authority to be able to impose that. So they can enter
And it's a
into a
very
dialogue.
professional army.
Absolutely.
Is
So you know, the
That's something we
last
learn.
point.
Go on, sir.
Yeah,
Please go on,
last
sir.
point. You know, the title of your program here was coup, calm, or civilian rule. And you had put a question mark. I will remove the question mark. I'll say first it will be army control. That will bring
Yes.
calm, and that will lead to civilian rule. You know, that is the
And let me take
progress.
that to General Basniat. General Basniat, the army does not want to take control. From whatever I was able to gather from my conversations, General, the army is being asked to come, maintain law and order, but they wanted the Prime Minister to step down first so that the army does not get discredited to be associated with him. But they want some kind of a civilian leadership in place before they come. Do I understand that correctly, General Basniat?
I think when you're talking about the army, you know, the army was deployed yesterday according to the Local Administrative Act, which does not deploy the army in full. So it has to be done. The constitutional arrangements, it has to be done through the National Security Council chaired by the Prime Minister, and which did not happen. One. Second is, I think looking at the prospects now, when the president is the deciding factor, he should take several steps. One is
Yes.
he must dissolve the parliament. One.
Yes.
Second, he must form an interim government with non-political personalities, expertise on different fields who can head the commissions and lead the government so that the government, so that the political direction and are given by the expertise rather than with the political biases. So this is what has to happen. So the president has to be very careful politically. But I would like to draw two lines. One is,
Yeah.
I think the president must be, the constitutional body must be very involved in getting the politics in direction with the amendments in the constitutions that the people should desire and preserving the Nepal's identity. At the same time, I think the army must assist in formalizing the security order and trying to form a security of a body that really looks into a long term. So this is a very bad incident. But I tell you, Gaurav, this is not a surprise. This would have come one or the other day. It is ignorance of the political elites not to identify the challenges that the government, that the people were facing and the nation was facing. So this ignorance has led to a lots of lives, lots of tragedies, and so the president and everything
Okay.
lies on the president's office and the chief of the
So
army. I'm sure
all
will
eyes on
handle it
Ramchandra
well
Paudel.
in the coming days.
Yes, all eyes on the president, Ramchandra Paudel. He, of course, is not in the presidential house because the presidential house was set on fire by the mob. From what sources say, he was whisked away to safeties at a military garrison, but will stay back. Unlike some other political leaders who want to leave the country, apparently he wants to stay back. But Nepal is in flames. Gentlemen, stay with me. From the Parliament House to the Prime Minister's house to homes of several top political leaders to the presidential house, Sheetal Niwas, they were set on fire. So such was the anger of the youth because they'd been crying for a very long time, not just the social media. They were crying for jobs. They wanted jobs. They were crying for a better life. They were crying against this rampant corruption. And it's not just one instance of corruption in buying aircraft for the Nepal Airlines, multiple instances. KP Sharma Oli finally put in his papers this afternoon. Nepal army has been asked to step in, but as ministers actually fled in helicopters to the Tribhuvan International Airport, there's curfew not just in Kathmandu but across the 77 districts. The nation is in free fall. The big question, who will take charge? Nepal in free fall. Kathmandu burning, from the parliament to the Supreme Court, from the president's office at Sheetal Niwas to political party offices and private homes of political leaders. Protesters have taught symbols of power. Even former Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba and Baburam Bhattarai were not spared. The Gen Z uprising has toppled the KP Sharma Oli government in Nepal. The trigger, rampant corruption and a controversial social media ban. Though the Oli government rolled back its ban, Gen Z had already taken charge of the streets, demanding accountability and action against corruption.
They are the murderers of our nation. They killed our 14 years children on gunshot in head, and this is very brutal.
पुलिस आके उद्देश्य आके तो बंदूक के नाल से हमें मार दिया। बहुत भ्रष्टाचार है। हमारा युवा से रोजगार नहीं मिल रहा है।
The Nepal army has now been forced into the spotlight. KP Sharma Oli resigned as Nepal's Prime Minister after Army Chief General Ashok Raj reportedly told him to step down in national interest. Sources say Oli pleaded with the army for help to flee Nepal. Dubai, now his likely destination. Ministers are being heli-lifted from their homes and army choppers as curfew has been clamped across Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur.
Since morning we have seen after the airport got shut down, the choppers are being used, army choppers are being used to take the political class out of the country, and the protesters from the Gen Z community are wanting to have complete dissolving of the parliament.
Protesters call Oli's exit people's victory. The third violent power shift in India's neighborhood after Mahinda Rajapakse in Sri Lanka in 2022 and Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh in 2024. With the political class discredited, all eyes now are on the Nepal army. The military leadership insists it stands with the people of Nepal, issuing a rare joint appeal with the police and civil administration to restore calm as quickly as possible. The youth, though, are wary and have appealed to Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah to take over as the interim Prime Minister of Nepal.
Prime Minister has resigned, but that is not enough. The youth over here, they won't be satisfied just by the resignation of Prime Minister. We need Prime Minister to be in front of the people and be sorry for all the killings that he has done yesterday.
अब हम ये पार्टी का नेता नहीं मानते हैं। हमारा जिंदगी से प्रधानमंत्री हमें चाहिए और राष्ट्रपति हमारा उसी से चाहिए और जौन मंत्री हमारा जिंदगी भाई लोग हमारा देश निर्माण करेगा, हमारा देश फिर ही उठेगा।
Tonight, the Oli era is over. What comes next to Nepal? An interim civilian government or an army-backed dispensation remains the big question. With Pankaj Das, Rohit Singh and Amit Bharadwaj in Nepal. Bureau Report, India Today. Ambassador Sajjanhar, you heard the voice on the street. Gen Z want one, their leadership, a clean break from the leadership that hasn't been able to deliver on their aspirations. Two, they want accountability. But looking at past trends, is accountability even possible or feasible in the current scenario?
Yeah, Gaurav, what we've been talking about, that these are spontaneous, these are organic protests and demonstrations that have come about. So, they don't have a unified leadership. There is no unified party or body or group that has sort of, brought this. Of course, there is this organization, Hami Nepal,
Hami
and, they
Nepal.
were the ones who sort of, set it up. But I don't know in terms of their grassroots outreach and political interest and ambitions. What is it? Is it a social? Is it a civil sort of an organization? Is it political? So I think basically they will have to come together, because individuals might say that we want our rule, but basically it has to be a cohesive body that has to come to
Yes.
in position to be able to take charge, to be able to take control, and to be able to give that confidence. And maybe some of these opposition parties which have been sidelined completely, like the RSP, the gentleman was talking
Yes.
about, and and also there was whose leader was put behind bars. He got quite a good number of MPs, more than 20 in the last elections, but then and he was able to do quite creditably.
Okay.
But then he was on some charges or the other, he was put behind bars, he's been released from there. So I think some of those who have some
In fact, there's
grassroots.
breaking news that's coming in, Ambassador Sajanhar. There's been a breakout of jails, whether it's the Pokhara jail, at least 2 jails. There has been a breakout, and hundreds of prisoners, including political prisoners, have been able to come out. So amidst this chaos and protests across Nepal, there have been reports of jailbreak. It's a dangerous dimension to what's happening in Nepal. Jailbreak happening, Jal Narsimhan. The situation does look very alarming even as we speak. But, the fact that civilian leadership has been targeted, police have been targeted, even the judiciary or a section of judiciary hasn't been spared. But the army, well respected, can they restore order, or will they also be now treading on eggshells?
The jailbreak was to be expected. When such large protest takes place, this is one of the things that will generally take place, and it has happened. So that needs to be controlled. The thing is, the earlier the army comes onto the streets and then start handling the situation, the better it would be. I think that is the only organization left in Nepal now at this point in time to handle the situation, and they are well-respected professional army, as I mentioned to you earlier, and they have always been balanced in their approach, whichever governments came in power in Nepal, because you know that no prime minister in the last 14, 15 years have completed his term. They always kept shifting. So army has been very well balanced. I think it's a respected organization. The earlier they come on the streets, the better it is to restore normalcy. In the meanwhile, the political activity should carry on the way the MP mentioned. So I think that is the way to go. Army will
In
definitely
fact, I
be
want to
able to
bring in.
control.
Okay, I want to bring in Mr. Abdul Khan, former minister in the Nepal government, once again into this conversation. तो अब्दुल खान साहब, किस तरह से प्रजातंत्र की बहाली एक बार फिर हो सकती है कि जेनजी को, युवाओं को शक्ति मिले, और इस समय जो बैठकें चल रही हैं जिसमें आपकी पार्टी भी शामिल है, तो क्या जो अंतरिम प्रधानमंत्री होंगे, इंटरिम प्राइम मिनिस्टर होंगे, वो बालन शाह ही होंगे? क्या यही सोच है?
देखिए, जो अभी युवा सबका जो भी आक्रोश था, ये कोई पार्टीगत या कोई नेतागत नहीं था। इसलिए कल के जो है प्रोटेस्ट में विशुद्ध रूप में युवा सबका उपस्थिति था। लेकिन आज का जो भी आंदोलन हुआ है, जो भी प्रोटेस्ट हुआ है, वो उसमें सभी दल, सभी पार्टी के लोग शामिल हुए। तो इससे यह साबित हो रहा है कि कुछ नेता सब, जो टॉप 15 या 20 लीडर जो थे यहाँ पे नेपाल के, उन्हीं लोग प्रति आक्रोश जो युवाओं का दिखा। अब युवाओं का मानना ये है कि कोई भी आए, कोई भी युवा बने, लेकिन वो युवा होना चाहिए और हमारे नेपाल के भविष्य को जो है बदलने वाला होना चाहिए। उसका विजन, उसका मिशन, सोच बेहतर होना चाहिए। तो खास
और
करके
अब
अभी
तो
तक
हिल्स और प्लेन्स, पहाड़ों में और तराई में या मधेशियों के साथ जो अन्याय है, उस तरह की बात नहीं होगी नए संविधान में या नए प्रशासन में?
नहीं, अभी का ये जो भी प्रोटेस्ट हुआ है, इसमें विशुद्ध रूप में नेपाल के लिए हुआ है। ये कोई किसी भूभाग के लिए इसमें कोई भी बात नहीं आई है, कोई जात, धर्म, संप्रदाय की बात नहीं है। इसमें विशुद्ध रूप में नेपाल को कैसे समृद्ध बनाया जाए, नया नेपाल कैसे बनाया जाए ताकि युवाओं को प्रतिनिधित्व हो, युवाओं को रोज़गार मिले, उनकी रोज़मर्रा की चीज़ें जो है यहाँ पे मिलें और उनका जीवन बेहतर हो। इसलिए इसमें किसी जात, धर्म, संप्रदाय और भूगोल के आधार पे ये प्रोटेस्ट नहीं हुआ। इसलिए हम सब
ठीक।
चाहते हैं कि ऐसा ना हो और नेपाल में जो है भौगोलिकता के हिसाब से, जाति, धर्म के हिसाब से सबको जो है सहभागिता मिले और उस तरीके का एक बेहतर नेपाल निर्माण हो, बेहतर नेपाल बने। उसी स्थिति में ये मुहिम चला, ये आंदोलन हुआ और अभी हो भी रहा है। इसको जो है आगे की ओर कैसे हम सब इसको जो है संयम बरताएँ, इसको कैसे जो है एक निष्कर्ष पे पहुँचाएँ, उसके लिए हम सब लगे हुए हैं, काम कर रहे हैं। और इसमें किसी भी पार्टी का लोग था,
ठीक।
जो वो भी आज बाकायदा रैली में निकला है, बाकायदा आंदोलन
और
में
एक
निकला
एक
है।
नेपाली के रूप में निकला है, नेपाल के नागरिक के रूप में निकला है।
जी।
आप मेरे साथ जुड़े, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। टू ऑल माय गेस्ट, मेनी थैंक्स फॉर जॉइनिंग मी ऑन दिस पार्ट एंड वील बी ट्रैकिंग डेवलपमेंट्स इन नेपाल very very closely. It's actually a revolution that started from the ground, but will it now have direction or will it lead to more fires being lit up is something that we'll be tracking closely.